This is FX Medicine. I'm Andrew Whitfield Cook. We're at the UIC 2019 Medical Cannabis Symposium at Tweed Heads. We're speaking with Dr. Ethan Russo. We'd say Russo, but you say Russo. How are you, Ethan?
I'm fine, thank you.
Now, you're the medical doctor, and you are director of ICCI.
Yes,
Have I got that right?
Research and Development.
R&D.
And that stands for the International Cannabis and Cannabinoids Institute.
What are the major focuses of the ICCI?
Well, this is a center of excellence. It's based in Prague, although I continue to live in the U.S. Our mission is to support the cannabis industry in all its facets, with a primary target of helping development of medicinal cannabis and making it available to patients. But it would also include industrial applications for hemp, use of hemp seed in nutrition, and everything else. Additionally, we'll have an internal research program of our own.
Now, you've given several talks here at the UIC Symposium. Just give us a brief expose about what the different talks have been on.
Sure. Well, I was honored to be able to give 3 talks. The first was focused on cannabis and preparations. That was called Making Cannabis Safer and Better. So an emphasis on why certain approaches, vaporization being better than smoking, what I think is a lack of necessity for some of the cannabis concentrates that are popular today, say in the U.S. amongst young recreational users of cannabis. And just how important things like how to grow cannabis properly, avoiding pesticide use and heavy metal contamination, things of this sort. The second talk was about the Cannabis Entourage, which is a way of saying how the difference of cannabis, different components act in concert to produce synergy. Synergy is a boosting of effect rather than 1 + 1 = 2, having 1 + 1 = 5.
And third talk?
Third talk was about the cannabis in the future of neurology, how it can be used to treat conditions as diverse as epilepsy, brain tumors, traumatic injury, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease.
Now, there's a lot of news, hot topics, if you like, in the news at the moment, in the science news, because there's no real great treatment for Alzheimer's.
That's true.
It's an emerging epidemic, or a pandemic indeed. And there's also, they're thinking about new possibilities or possible, are they triggers or causes that are immunological causes?
Sure. There is a very interesting relationship epidemiologically with Alzheimer's disease. It seems to be a disease of modern society. It was hardly existed in the 19th century. So there are associations seemingly with the so-called Western diet. Alzheimer's disease incidence is much lower in areas that are on more traditional or indigenous diet. And we know there's a distinct difference in the inflammatory production in the modern diet. But the Mediterranean diet, having a lot of fruits and vegetables, seems to be protective, and particularly things like prebiotics and probiotics. Probiotics are things like yogurt and fermented foods that used to be more traditional on the human diet, and prebiotics are indigestible plant matter that the good bacteria in the probiotics like to feed on. But these seem to exert a very protective influence in Alzheimer's disease and also in a variety of autoimmune diseases, including multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, and the like.
So we were talking just earlier, and you were saying that Propionibacterium acnes.
Right.
I don't know why I say it all the time.
Mouthful.
P. acnes. There's some link there with Alzheimer's.
Right. Yeah, this is interesting. It's been shown that this bacterium that's on the skin and produces acne is also found in the gut. It can migrate from the gut to the brain and grow there, and it's been cultured out of brains in high concentration in some patients with Alzheimer's disease. Interestingly, that can be counteracted by these probiotics and prebiotics. Additionally, it's opposed by a component of cannabis, cannabidiol, which has an antibiotic effect and inhibits its growth as well. So there's some very interesting relationships, combinations of lifestyle pursuits that particularly can combine with cannabis to treat Alzheimer's disease and a variety of other degenerative diseases.
I mean, this goes so many facets. So Propionibacterium acnes, a bacteria that we thought just lived on the skin, is not a facultative aerobe, but can be not an obligate aerobe, but can be a facultative anaerobe. It can live in the gut.
That's correct.
So therefore, I guess with transmission, are we talking about transmission of inflammatory components like cytokine release?
My understanding is that the bacteria themselves migrate to the brain and can grow there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
Absolutely mind-boggling.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. And so where's this research leading? So this is bacteria, and the CBD can inhibit this bacteria at the gut level.
Yes, and presumably throughout the body, it readily gets into the brain and exerts, at the same time that it might exert an antibiotic effect against P. acnes, it's also interfering with the pathological degeneration in Alzheimer's disease.
At the brain level.
Exactly. So the buildup of beta amyloid and neurofibrillary tangles, that's part of the pathophysiology, the disease process of Alzheimer's.
Could this perhaps affect route of administration of cannabis-type products for varying conditions like Alzheimer's?
Well, my personal feeling is that for chronic disorder, which is what we're usually treating with cannabis, that oral administration is best. This allows fewer peaks and valleys of activity, dosing fewer times a day because of the longer duration of action. So it's not a place in which inhalation is really necessary. And that's true of many conditions. Inhalation is an advantage for sudden attacks of things.
Yeah. So can you take us a little bit through, though, things like first-pass metabolism of the liver? Do any of the cannabinoids, or indeed the terpenes, are they affected, biotransformed with first-pass metabolism?
It's an area of a little bit of controversy. The traditional wisdom was that when THC is taken orally, it's converted in the liver to 11-hydroxy-THC. It was thought in the past that this was 4 times more psychoactive than THC. The more modern research seems to show no real difference, however, so I'm not sure how big a factor it is. With the terpenoids that exert the synergy with cannabis, they probably are most efficient when inhaled, but that's not to say that they're inactive when taken orally. It is that they will be broken down more rapidly.
And of course, there's so many other neurological conditions that are rampant in our society, not just Alzheimer's, but Parkinson's. We've got PTSD running rife and rearing its head in so many more ways than what we previously thought. What do you think is are going to be the glowing standards moving forward for the use of cannabis?
A lot of it will depend on access, and so unfortunately politics intrude. A medicine is worthless if it's not accessible. So in many jurisdictions, access has to be improved, and that might require legislation. Beyond that, the real mission for people like me is to provide better preparations that are focused for specific disease processes, so they're optimized and would offer the greatest chance of success in providing therapeutic advantage.
Dr. Ethan Russo, thanks so much for sharing your expertise.
Thank you.
At the symposium here today. This is FX Medicine. I'm Andrew Whitfield Cook.